Shana Tova, everybody. Shabbat Shalom. What an unusual and also wonderful way to gather together this evening. I welcome you to the space that I set up, just as I encouraged you to do so. You'll see on my little table here, the Seder plate that I made for the first time for an Erev Rosh Hashanah Seder and all the other important ritual items that we will need, along with some very beautiful flowers that were a gift from some of you for my birthday, so thank you. Actually, I want to start with a story, which I was going to do in a different place, but I want to imagine that I am looking at your faces right now. And for those of you who have been joining us each week for Shabbat on Zoom, I imagine that you were expecting to be able to, or at least initially planning to be able to see little faces like we do each week. The good news is there are so many of us gathered together that it just became untenable for us to be together on Zoom. So I would like to invite you to imagine that we are with all of each other, that you could be scrolling through our Zoom screens and seeing everybody's faces. So here's the story. It goes like this. And it doesn't matter who the child is and who the father is, but there was a child of a well-known rabbi who lived in Eastern Europe a long time ago. And every Shabbat, this young child would go out into the woods. And his father had no idea where he was going when he went into the woods. But he didn't ask because he trusted his child. And finally, one day, sort of curiosity got the better of him. And he pulled his child aside and he said, I noticed that every week on Shabbat, you go into the woods. Can you tell me, son, why is it that you go into the woods? And the child said to his father, I go into the woods to find God. And his father said to him curiously, but son, that's beautiful. And you know that God is everywhere. You know that you don't have to go into the woods to look for God. God is right here with us, wherever you are. And his son said to his father, in the way that children sometimes teach their parents, yes, God is the same wherever I go, but I am not. And that's, I think, our adjustment for this moment. Perhaps our equivalent of the woods is usually the sanctuary at Barnert Temple or wherever you're used to gathering. And that is the place where we are used to going to feel and to connect and to find God. But tonight we have made our own sacred spaces in your living rooms, in your dining rooms, some people in bedrooms, whatever it is. We can create space that is sacred and that is set aside. And when we do that, we also find opportunities and invitations to connect with the sacred, to connect with each other, and to be open to that connection. So it's Erev Rosh Hashanah, and it's also Shabbat. And so we're going to begin, as we would, with singing Shalom Aleichem. And then we will also sort of jump right into our Seder start. We're going to be using slides throughout our services during these high holy days, which are a little bit different than what we've been doing on Shabbat if you've been gathering with us. And the slides will have all the words that you need. And as you see them, I would invite you to sing at home, whether you're by yourself or with your family, to read at home, whether you're by yourself or with your family, just like we would if we had our books open in front of us. It's the same font and the same translation. It's the slides right from our book. We hope it will feel familiar. And we hope that you will sing with us, with Marina now, as we join together in welcoming these ministering angels who remind us that Shabbat is here, that a new year is here, and that we welcome and celebrate together.
Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Hasharet, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Bohem l'shalom, Malachei HaShalom, Malachei Elyon. Mi-melech Malachei HaMelachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Barchuni l'shalom, Malachei HaShalom, Malachei Elyon. Mi-melech Malachei HaMelachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Tzidchem l'shalom, Malachei HaShalom, Malachei Elyon. Mi-melech Malachei HaMelachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu.
So in a moment, we will get to visit the home of our wonderful president, Elizabeth Resnick. And if you're accustomed to being with us for Erev Rosh Hashanah, as we normally are in the sanctuary, you'll remember that it's an honor each year given to our president to light our Rosh Hashanah candles. In this case, it's also our Rosh Hashanah and Shabbat candles. So let's find Elizabeth so we can see her beautiful face and her candles. And there she is. We're going to spotlight her in a moment. I'm narrating along so everybody knows what's happening. So you shouldn't be nervous. Kathy, when you could spotlight Elizabeth, that would be great. We don't need your sound, although it's fine. I want to see your face. That's up. We're almost there. There you are. Hi, Elizabeth and Amanda. It's wonderful to see you, and it's wonderful that everybody else gets to also see both of you. And I want to go on record publicly and say, Elizabeth, as I sort of half joked at the annual meeting this year, I know that when you agreed to be the president of the synagogue, a pandemic was not on the list of things you expected to be helping us manage and thrive and live through. But we are so lucky that we have you at the helm right now. And Amanda, thank you for helping to keep your awesome mom and our awesome president steady and sane through so much that is different. And we are really grateful and blessed to be welcoming Shabbat and welcoming the new year with both of you. So Elizabeth and Amanda, whenever you're ready, you can light those candles, and then I will put the words up and Marina will lead us in words of blessing. Thank you.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav, v'tzivanu le'adlik ner shel Shabbat v'shel Yom Tov.
So we are going to join together in our festival Kiddush now. And if we were gathered together in our sanctuary or on Zoom, although we could not do it with as many people as are here, I would remind you, as I'm going to now, that we offer, that's just the HD camera, it's okay. We offer Kiddush over grape juice or wine. And actually kiddush is not, we do include the blessing for wine, but the blessing is really about the day, right? The blessing is about Shabbat and Rosh Hashanah in this case. And there are lots of examples in our tradition of where people use something else to make kiddush if they don't have something that is fruit of the vine. So we have been, in addition to this, offering our blessings, the gifts of our lives, that for which we are feeling grateful, as our offering to help sanctify this sacred day. So I know it's weird, but so even if you're alone, I'm going to ask you to say out loud, just to whoever's listening, even if you're just saying it to me, I'm listening here as much as I can be. I want you to say out loud something that you are feeling grateful for this evening as we say goodbye to 5780 and we welcome 5781. What is something that you are feeling especially grateful for this evening? Take a moment and articulate something out loud. So I will add here, I hope you read the note that I shared with the congregation. I will add that I am feeling most grateful this evening as we enter this holiday in this Barnert community for the really tremendous work of my professional and volunteer lay partners who have been working jobs to get us up in here. And it's really a gift to do this together. So I'm going to invite you to read along with me on this reading that is the one we often begin with when we read together in the sanctuary on Erev Rosh Hashanah. We just did that, sorry. So I know it's strange to read to a computer screen or a television screen, and I'm going to encourage you to sort of get through the strange and read anyway out loud, because hearing the readings and saying the readings and the blessings and the prayers makes them feel different for us, and it's important. So please read with me. For wedding rings, tears, and kisses under the chuppah. Oh, I think I skipped a page. I went too far here. Sorry. Introduction to Kiddush. This is where I went to be. Lift this cup for the year that is gone, for mountaintop moments and the taste of joy, celebrations shared, milestones met, all we've mastered and achieved since last we met, for wedding rings, tears, and kisses under the chuppah, new babies, first words and first steps, for the children who bless our homes and bring life to our community, for B'nai Mitzvah and confirmands, young teachers of this holy congregation, ours to cherish and guide with love, for beloved wives and husbands, sisters and brothers, for loyal friends who grow more precious with each passing year, for this community, which nourishes us all, for all we've learned, for all we've struggled through, for challenges surmounted and disappointments met with courage, for last moments shared with those we loved and lost, for parents and grandparents whose memories are with us forever. We lift this cup for the year that is gone, for the year that begins. May we meet it in strength, in unity, in hope. We lift life's cup and celebrate survival. So may we sanctify each day that is ours.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bahar bana mikol am, beromimana mikol lashon, vekidishanu b'mitzvotav, vatiten lanu Adonai Eloheinu be'ahava, את יום השבת הזה ואת יום הזיכרון הזה, יום תרועה מקרא קודש, זכר ליציאת מצרים. כי בנו בחרת ואותנו קידשת מכל העמים, ודברך אמת וקיים לעד. ברוך אתה אדוני מלך על כל הארץ, מקדש ישראל. מלך על כל הארץ, מקדש ישראל. מלך על כל הארץ, מקדש ישראל. ביום הזיכרון. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם, שהחיינו וקיימנו והגיענו לזמן הזה.
So we note the particular calls of this season, this Yom HaZikaron, that we really bring into a moment here with the call of the shofar. And we are going to welcome a new month, which is the beginning of our year. And we offer this traditional chanted melody that invites that moment. And actually, after Marina chants this, I will offer an initial blast of the shofar as a welcome, and know, of course, that we'll get to hear more of that shofar tomorrow. So we call Rosh Hashanah Yom HaZikaron. That's what you see here. It's one of the 4 traditional names for Rosh Hashanah. It's the day that God and the people of Israel remember, and we think about our behavior from the past year. And it's also, according to our tradition, the day that we remember creation, right? There's actually 4 different New Years in our tradition, and this one is the most universal of them. It's the creation of the world, and we think about our relationship with God and with the world and the way we take care of each other. It's the more universal of our high holy days. So I want to invite you just to think about memory and to think about beginnings. We think about God's creative acts, right, of creating, literally making the first day. And in our tradition, often when we talk about what God does, it's also an invitation for us to think about what we do and how we create. So just take a moment and reflect on your year here. See if you can remember last Erev Rosh Hashanah. Maybe you were home with your family having dinner. Maybe you were at synagogue with us. I would venture to say, in a way that I don't like to make such strong statements, that none of us could probably have imagined this Rosh Hashanah at last Rosh Hashanah. And yet we have the opportunity to create every time we open our mouths to speak, right? That's the way God creates. Every time that we make a decision about how to behave in the world. we remember that God created a whole world with language, right? Out of chaos, there was light, and there was the separation of day and night and lightness and dark and sea from sky, and then emerged all of us ultimately. So this is tonight the beginning of the month of Tishrei. And I just want to show you these neat ways that our tradition reminds us of what's possible. So on my screen on the right here, is the word Bereshit. You'll see it where my mouse is here. Hopefully you can see that. This is the first word of the Torah, Bereshit bara Elohim et hashamayim ve'et haaretz. Now you can see here that I have rearranged the letters, and it says Aleph B'Tishrei, which means the first day of the month of Tishrei. And we are taught that on this day, not only was creation done, but on this day is the act of creating always possible for us. From darkness, from chaos, comes light, even when we don't know what's going to follow. And as we are going to sort of continue with some of our liturgy and then ultimately get more into the symbols on our Seder plate for this Erev Rosh Hashanah, I would invite you to just sort of sit in what might feel dark and unknown, and to know that out of the unknown and out of chaos can come beauty, and can come possibility, and can come connection, and that we will be there to welcome that and build that and do that together. So we get to formally announce the new year here, and I'm walking you through what we often do more quickly at the beginning of an Erev Rosh Hashanah Seder, since you have us in this different way. You'll see that blank is what's left for us, right? For us to fill in. So I'll remind you when we get to the English, and if you know the Hebrew, you're welcome to fill it in with me too, that we are entering, so as soon as we announce it here, 5,781. Eloheinu ve'Elohei avotenu ve'imotenu, yehi ratzon shenizkeh levirchoteha, bishnat chameshet alafim, shva me'ot shmonim ve'echad. Our God and God of our ancestors, may we know your blessings in the year 5,781. Eternal One, bless us and the whole house of Israel with renewed life, happiness and peace, comfort and courage, resilience and strength. May the words of our heart be acceptable to you in the new year that stretches before us. We are forever grateful for this gift of life. So we are going to engage with a lot of different new items this year. This was a totally new custom for me and for many of my colleagues as we were preparing our Seder, our holidays this year. We're going to offer this general blessing for fruit because we're going to eat a lot of fruit. In particular, we're going to eat some apples and honey in a moment. And try to remember back to Passover before we start. Actually going to take this down for a second so you don't have to look at the screen for quite so long. We'll come back here in just a moment. Try to remember Passover. It was the beginning of the pandemic. We had been in our homes for only a week or two, and we gathered together for a wonderful and large, first ever for sure, Zoom Barnert Seder. And we used lots of symbols to help tell the story, right? That's what we do. Our Seder plates for Passover remind us of different elements of the Passover story, and that helps us move forward. So that's what we're going to do today. And this tradition is a Sephardic tradition. So if you are of Sephardic Jewish descent, you may have grown up with an Erev Rosh Hashanah Seder. It was totally new to me in my preparations for how we might celebrate differently this year because the platform is different. And it's an opportunity to engage with particular values and particular wishes and characteristics that we hope to bring into our new year and our New Year celebration. One thing that I would say is if this resonates and you like it and you want to do it again, think about what else you would add to it, right? what we're doing tonight is pretty traditional in terms of what's out there, but don't forget, even on Passover, we have added all kinds of symbols to connect us more deeply with this moment, whatever this moment is, or whatever issue really we feel needs to be part of the story we tell for the holiday. So see what you think is missing, which is a funny thing for a rabbi to say at a service, but see what you think is missing from the ingredients on your Rosh Hashanah Seder plate. And if we like this tradition and we continue to do it, perhaps we will be able to think about other items to add as we continue our celebrations together in future years. So I'm going to offer this blessing here. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, borei peri ha'etz. Blessed are you, Adonai our God, source of all creation, who creates the fruit of the trees. So the first time, we're going to start with apples because, of course, the first time that we read of apples being dipped in honey is from Abu Duram's commentary in 1380. That's a long time ago that Jews have been dipping apples in honey for Rosh Hashanah. The honey represents the sweetness of the new year. In France, the apple had to be red. In Sept, they saw the apple's blending of red and white as a mystical interpretation of the blending and harmony of God's power and love. And you're welcome to join with me for each of these particular, they're not exactly prayer offerings. That's not a blessing, but it's a wish. It's a prayer here, just not exactly a traditional blessing. So you have the Hebrew and the transliteration and then the English, and please read with me. Yehi ratzon milfanecha Adonai Eloheinu velohei avotenu ve'imotenu. Shetechadesh aleinu shana tova umetuka mereshit hashana ve'ad acharit hashana. May it be your will, O God and God of our ancestral parents, that you will renew for us a good and sweet year from beginning to end. And if you have some apple, I would invite you to take a bite and to taste the sweetness and to reflect on the sweetness that you bring to others and that you are hopefully experiencing in this of your Erev Rosh Hashanah celebrations. So I hope you found some pomegranate. I did. And so you can see mine here, right? So if you may know that there's a tradition that the pomegranate has 613 seeds, which is a significant number because there are 613 commandments that we are given in the Torah. Does a pomegranate actually have 613 seeds? I don't know, never counted. The idea is that a pomegranate represents our living, our commandments, our Torah, right? And so when we eat a pomegranate on Rosh Hashanah, we're reminded of the importance of doing mitzvot in the coming year. Thus, the prayer we're going to offer in a moment, may we be as full as the pomegranate of good deeds. So before we offer this prayer, reflect on some or one at least good deed, one aspect of observance of mitzvot that you have done regularly this year. Some way that you have made living with commandments part of your life. Perhaps even over the last 6 months, you've celebrated Shabbat more than you ever did. Maybe you've been to services or lighting candles. Maybe you've made it a priority by wearing your mask to safeguard the lives of all people. Maybe you have figured out how to care for those who are isolated or hungry. Whatever it is, there's a lot of different ways that we do mitzvot, right? Reflect on one in particular mitzvah that you have done this year, one of these pomegranate seeds, right? And maybe there's something you want to add to your, I'm going to do my best to try this more next year list. It's a different mitzvah that you want to incorporate into your daily Jewish or weekly Jewish or regular Jewish living. That's what these remind us of as we internalize them and we eat them. Yehi ratzon milfanecha Adonai Eloheinu velohei avotenu ve'imotenu shenihyeh mileim mitzvot karimon May it be your will, O God, and God of our ancestral parents, that we will be full of mitzvot, like a pomegranate is full of seeds. Taste your pomegranate. Throughout our services tonight and also for the next 10 days, we're going to have the opportunity to enjoy and to be moved by music that was created with love by so many of the people in our community. We have a number of young people also who have worked hard with us to really bring us beautiful music, the way we are accustomed to having our own beautiful music on the bima. This melody is to a prayer, Ahavat Olam, which is all about love. And in our tradition, we are taught that God expresses love by giving us Torah. That's actually ultimately what the words of this prayer are about. We have mitzvot and laws and Torah as proof of God's love for us. So in just a moment, we're going to get to experience this, in this case, offered by Mia Lowy and Zach Brookler, and Janet, you'll see on piano. But before we offer these words of prayer and experience these words of prayer, just take a moment and think about how you know love. From whom? What does it feel like? What does it feel like when you get to offer love? How does that connection lift you up? I hope these faces and these voices connect you to one another, to me, to Marina, to our singers, to our community. And we offer in just a moment the Shema. And we move from this melody, which we've offered on Shabbat during this pandemic, now to the sound, the nusach, the melody of high holidays. Particularly this juxtaposition, this reminder of time, right? The point of nusach, of this particular melody, is that you could go into any synagogue anywhere in the world, even if you didn't have a calendar, and know whether it's Shabbat or whether it's a weekday, because the melody changes in this case, and know that it's the high holidays. So I'm gonna invite you to close your eyes if you want to. You certainly don't have to, but to close your eyes and to remember what it feels like to sit in a sanctuary at Barnert, filled with us, filled with our people on the high holidays, and to hear these melodies for the first time, to hear this Shema of the high holidays. Take a breath. Let go of whatever followed you from this week, or at least put it aside for a little while. Whatever apprehensions you had about celebrations here or excitements, and prepare for the sound of Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur and the high holidays in our space. And what it is that we hope we feel during this time and that we get out of this time. The voices of our quartet stay with us through these holidays, the same voices that greet us in the sanctuary, reminding us where we are, and where we are is together, even though we are not in the same physical space. I did not mean to do that. Sorry. All learning new tech at the same time. This is where I wanted to be. This is a beat. And this beat is the reason I did not put my high holiday robe on for this service, because I was worried about dropping it. So I love beats, and I love that beats are part of the high holiday Erev Rosh Hashanah Seder. So here we have what we've written here. Beets are eaten because of a pun associated with the name in Hebrew. This blessing asks that all our enemies go away. The Hebrew word for beet is selek, which is similar to the Hebrew word saluk, which means to remove or take away. So what do we focus on when we think about enemies right now, right? So in the traditional language of the Torah, there is a pretty clear understanding of who our enemies are. We're often at war, we're fighting, whatever it is. Today, it could be more complicated. It could be more nuanced. And we eat this beet, you'll see that for a reminder that we wish to be blessed with freedom. And we need to also be aware of what we need to be away from, right? So we may have enemies within ourselves, ways that we beat ourselves up, make it hard for us to succeed. There may be people in our lives who we feel are hard for us to live with or to move through. And we need to think about how we make space and free ourselves from whoever, whatever, even if it's ourselves, from our enemies. We say together, Yehi ratzon milfanecha Adonai Eloheinu v'Elohei avotenu ve'imotenu. Sheyistalku oivenu. There you have that selek there. You have a taf in the middle. Sheyistalku oivenu misonenu. V'chol mivakshe ra'atenu. May it be your will, O God and God of our ancestral parents, that we be blessed with freedom. And if you have a beet, take a bite. I think they're delicious. I saw on some of your Seder plates that you posted on Facebook, whole gourds and squash and pumpkins, which is awesome. I roasted mine so I could eat it because I like to eat things. So here we have a gourd or a squash for happiness. Mine is of the butternut variety. And we have another play on words here in this Seder. The blessing over the gourd is a pun as well. The word for gourd, kara, is close to the word for rip apart or to announce. We ask that our misdeeds be ripped apart and our merits be announced. If we think of our merits as blessings, then this prayer can serve to remind us to count the many blessings in our lives. One thing I like about this, although I don't know if it's intentional, if you've ever taken all the seeds out of a pumpkin, right? There's so many seeds in a pumpkin. And when I was first encountering this tradition, I thought also about perhaps the idea of counting or imagining all those seeds as our merits, the same way maybe we imagine the seeds of a pomegranate like mitzvot. Yehi ratzon milfanecha Adonai Eloheinu v'Elohei avotenu v'imotenu shetikra roa gazar dinenu vayikre'u lefanecha zechuyotenu. May it be your will, O God and God of our ancestral parents, that we be blessed with happiness. You should eat whatever squash or gourd you have if yours is edible on the table there. Mine is delicious. I hope yours is too. Let's count our blessings. Pick one blessing that fills you with happiness and share it aloud using this formula. You can do it in Hebrew or English. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, and then you would fill in yours, or if you prefer English. Thank you, God for the blessing of community, love, family, shelter, education, healthcare, whatever it is. Take a moment and fill in your blessings here. Imagine those seeds of a squash or a pumpkin being all the blessings we could bring together. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei pri ha'adama. This is both a beet and a pumpkin now, this blessing for having offered these fruits of the earth, right? As opposed to fruits of the tree. The apple was for fruits of the tree and this for the earth. A date. I love dates. Dates represent our wish for peace. The Hebrew word for date, or tamar, is related to the word tam, which means end. We pray that hatred in the world will end and that the new year will be a year of peace. Yehi ratzon milfanecha Adonai Eloheinu v'Elohei avotenu v'imotenu sheyitamu oivenu v'sonenenu v'chol mivakshe ra'atenu. May it be your will, O God and God of our ancestral parents, that this new year will be a peaceful year for us and for all of the world. And we taste the sweetness of the dates. A beautiful poem here that we're going to read together. To move my little Zoom bar first, though. Alden Solovey, who wrote this poem, has been writing a lot of new liturgy for our time and for our movement, and you may have come across his poetry before. Please read with me. When peace comes, when the tunnels are gone and the walls come down, when we sing together as brothers and sisters, we will remember these days of sorrow and grief, of rockets and terror, of longing and despair, as a memorial to those who were lost, as a remembrance of our mourning, as a monument to our yearning on the road to wholeness, on the road to wisdom, on the road to our days of rejoicing. O you children of Abraham, you sons and daughters of Sarah and Hagar, what will you become? How long before shalom and salam echo in these hills, in the valleys and in the shores, as shouts of awe and amazement? How long before we remember to hold each other dear? One God, maker of all, banish war from our midst. Speedily bring forth justice, understanding, and love. Bind these wounds and heal our hearts. On the day the children of Ishmael and the children of Isaac will dance as one, joy will rise to heaven, and gladness will fill the earth. We offer one of our two prayers for peace this evening here. It is a prayer we offer only in the evening, and this particular version of it only on Shabbat. It's a prayer for shelter and for safety. We think about this shelter not only as a physical shelter, but also as the shelter that we create in the world that we build, in the way that we speak to one another, and the way that we work to build a world of wholeness and peace for all people.
Baruch atah Adonai haborei sukkot shalom. Shalom aleinu ve'al kol amo Yisrael. Baruch atah Adonai haborei sukkot shalom. Shalom aleinu ve'al kol amo Yisrael. Ve'al Yerushalayim ve'al kol amo. Ve'al Yerushalayim shalom. Ve'al Yerushalayim ve'al kol amo. Ve'al Yerushalayim shalom. Baruch atah Adonai haborei sukkot shalom. Shalom aleinu ve'al kol amo Yisrael. Shalom aleinu ve'al kol amo Yisrael.
Our next Seder item may have been one of the more unusual ones on the list if you're not accustomed to eating squash and beets frequently, although you should, they're delicious. This one is traditionally the head of a fish, sometimes a lamb, but we gave you some alternatives in case you didn't want to have a fish head on your table. So I'm gonna read a little bit about that. So this is to represent the way that we wish to be leaders. And, you know, I, like you probably, I'm getting a lot of pings on my phone right now, which I have only on for emergencies as we come to this moment for leadership, about the death of Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg. What a significant time to learn about her death, and we'll have more to say about that now, but I was going to wait to mention it during Kaddish, and then here, as it was confirmed, we came to this call to think about the way that we are leaders and the way that we embody leadership and focus on how we want to be leaders in the year ahead. So although there is some levity also in the way that we represent this here, it seemed like an appropriate moment to also reflect on the leadership of this great Supreme Court Justice who has been fighting for us for her life for a long time. The Seder calls for a fish or a sheep's head to symbolize our wish to be heads and not tails, leaders and not stragglers. In lieu of the fish or sheep's head, you may use a head of lettuce. That's what I have over here in my little cup. Cabbage or garlic, goldfish crackers or a gummy fish to give us the strength to do our part to repair the world this year. And I did see at least one family sent us their Swedish fish head as a representation of this aspect of our observance here. So to think for a moment about leadership and what it means to be a head and not a tail, to be leading and not following, to be out ahead before you know what's coming, before you have the safety of the pack, to take people after you, and all the different ways that that kind of leadership embodies and sort of shows up in the world. And how significant it is that this Rosh Hashanah, right, the head of the year on Rosh Hashanah, we eat something or internalize something that encourages us to figure out how to be that kind of leader, right? It will be different for each of us. We all lead differently, and that's the gift of being in community. All of our different strengths are actualized and embodied in different ways. But each of us has to figure out here as we sort of as we eat this symbol, we remind ourselves how important this is. We have to figure out how to be like heads and not tails. We say together, Yehi ratzon milfanecha Adonai Eloheinu ve'Elohei avotenu ve'imotenu shenihiyeh lerosh velo lazenev, right? La Rosh, Rosh Hashanah. We want to be like the Rosh and not the Zanav, le Zanav. May it be your will, Adonai our God, that we will be heads and not tails, leaders instead of followers, and at the head of what is right and good in the year to come. What is it that you want to lead in the year to come? How will you be ahead in the year to come? And now on judgment, the Hebrew word for carrot is gezer, reminiscent of the word ligzor, which means both to cut and to decree. Therefore, the carrot on the Rosh Hashanah table traditionally carries with it a wish that God judge us with positive decrees. Eastern European Jewish communities have adapted this as a blessing for plenty, since the Yiddish word for carrots, meren, can also mean increase. Yehi ratzon milfanecha Adonai Eloheinu ve'Elohei avotenu ve'imotenu sheribu zechuyotenu. May it be your will, O God, and God of our ancestral parents, decree upon us good decrees and favorable judgments. Taste our carrots. This prayer for peace again, said we'd have two tonight. Shalom Rav. Shalom, the word peace, many of you know, is related with the same three-letter root as the word shalem, which means complete or whole. Rav means many, right? So Shalom Rav is a bountiful, a full, a whole peace. If we think of shalom and shalem as related, and then we think about the word Rav with that, this idea of a fully fullness or a whole wholeness or a plentiful wholeness, and what our role will be in getting there. As we internalize literally the messages of this holiday, the opportunities, the possibility of the new year through most of the items we've eaten already, the way we live with commandments, the sweetness of the apple, the way that we are leaders, right? All the different things that we do here. the way that we identify the enemies that hold us back and the blessings that we have to help us move forward. And we again take in this melody that is part of our high holiday tradition for Shalom Rav, and we imagine what our part will be in bringing a wholeness, a complete completeness, a full peace in the year to come. Susan, if you unshare, I would be happy to put the prayer up. I have it here for us. That's why we have backups.
Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Ki ata hu melech adon lechol hashalom.
Ki ata hu melech adon lechol shalom.
V'tov levarech et amcha Yisrael bechol et uvchosha bishlomecha. Besefer Hayim, Besefer Hayim, Beracha Beshalom, Uvarnasa Tova. Nizacher ונכתב לפניך, ניזכר ונכתב לפניך, אנחנו לכל עמך בית ישראל, לחיים טובים ושלום. ברוך אתה אדוני עושה השלום.
So to all of you out there who are also helping us by making sure that we know when things are not working as we want them to, we thank you for that. We're going to hear much more from our sanctuary and from our quartet over the many days that we will spend together with different kinds of high holiday celebrations and offerings. In this moment, we turn to remembrance, and we will offer in a moment Mourner's Kaddish. And since it's Shabbat, I'm also going to offer our yahrzeit list this week. Before we do that, formally during Yizkor at the end of Yom Kippur, we will remember everybody we've lost by name this year. But we lost a lot of people we loved this year. And many of you are in homes right now celebrating your first Rosh Hashanah without your partner, your husband or your wife, without your parent, your mother or your father, perhaps your child, your son or your daughter, a sibling, a grandparent, a best friend, whoever they were to you. And I'm going to read our Kaddish list and our Shloshim list, and then I'm going to invite you to share the name out loud of all of the people you are holding close to you, particularly on this unusual way of welcoming a new year. And I'm going to invite you to hold close also something about how they lived that you carry with you into this new year. One of their truths or their teachings or the way that you supported and engaged with each other. Remembering that this Mourner's Kaddish is language for lifting up the best of life through the sanctification and the exaltation of God. If God is connection, then when we do that, we lift up one another as well. On this Shabbat, we remember those whose yahrzeit fall this week or during this time of year. We remember William Adler, Richard H. Adler, Joseph Stern Bauer, Jonathan Casper, Esther Farber, Hannah Fogel, May DeHaan Friedman, Frederick Sidney Geller, Martin Goldzweig, Max Green, Rita D. Greenberg, Sophie G. Holdstein, Max Kirschner, Gerard G. Lowen, Tekla Monat, Jacob Rosenstein, Sarah Siegel, Lawrence Schulman, Julian Silverman, Frank Stave, Miriam Steiger, Irving Sumner, Ruth Kessler Taffen, and Martha Wormser. During this period of Shloshim, we remember Dorothy J. Milstein, Karen Cooperman, and Jill Edelson. This week, we offer Kaddish for Jerome Levenberg. And of course, in this moment, although it is too soon to formally offer Kaddish, as we do, we hold with us the life and legacy of Ruth Bader Ginsburg. And again, please share out loud to me as I hold you and your memories and your loved ones close to me. Please share out loud those you are holding close to you tonight. Zichronam livracha. May the memories of those we have loved and love continue to be lights for us as we live. We say together. Yitkadal v'yitkadash shemei rabbah, ve'alma divra chirutei, ve'amlich malchutei, v'chayechon v'yomechon, v'chayei dechol beit Yisrael, ba'agala uvizman kariv v'imru amen. Oops. Yehei shemei rabbah mevarach, le'alam ulalmei almaya, Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh, v'yithadar v'yitaleh v'yithalal shemei dekudesha barichu, la'ela ula'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechemata, da'amiran be'elma v'imru amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya, v'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Oseh shalom bimramav, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'al kol yoshvei tevel, ve'imru. Amen. So we have one final symbol to offer this evening, and that is our challah. And I'm gonna just show you another lovely piece here. And I hope you have a lovely round challah. And if you don't, I hope that you will have the opportunity to pick one up or to enjoy one. Remember here, chalot are usually served in the standard round shape for the High Holy Days. Other traditions have the challah ladder shaped in reference to Jacob's dream, climbing the ladder with the angels, or bird shaped, referencing the biblical verse as birds hovering. So will God protect Jerusalem. You know now from many Zoom Shabbats with me, if you've been, that I in my life somehow have still never baked a challah, which seems like a really good life goal for 5781. And that latter one looks really beautiful and represents so many possibilities for us. Please join with me. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, hamotzi lechem min haaretz. Blessed are you, Adonai, our God, source of all creation, who brings forth bread from the earth. We have one final musical offering, a prayer of sorts, a benediction for us, a familiar piece that we sing each year during the High Holy Days, put together with love by a few of our Barnert tempos, which is the name of our junior choir, and some other faces that you'll recognize. Tomorrow at 9 o'clock, we have a family experience, which will be music and the sounds of the High Holy Days and a story. So if you have kids at home, a story told with all of the gusto and love of Sarah and Jesse Loesch. I hope you will join us here, and then our formal morning service will begin at 10:30, the same place. Find someone close to you if you are with other people. We offer each other this wish and blessing that this will be a new year of good health, of laughter and learning and connection, and hopefully hugs again soon. And that when we arrive at 5782 next year on Erev Rosh Hashanah, that we are back together in our sacred home at Barnert Temple.
May this be a year of love and kindness. May this be a year of peace. May truth and compassion
This is for all of our singers who have helped us celebrate. Shabbat Shalom, Shana Tova. I look forward to being back together with you again in the morning.